Dzień dobry, wybiła godzina 10, więc zaczynamy nasz webinar. Ja na początek się przedstawię tym, którzy mnie jeszcze nie znają. Nazywam się Basia Salamon i jestem doradczynią edukacyjną. Od 2010 roku pomagam polskim rodzinom w wyborze zagranicznych szkół, a od 2013 roku prowadzę własną agencję Excellence in Education. W Excellence in Education pomagamy w wyborze i aplikacji do szkół, ale organizujemy też wydarzenia, podczas których rodzice z Polski mogą przyjechać do danego miasta w Polsce i porozmawiać bezpośrednio z przedstawicielami zagranicznych szkół. Dzisiaj spotykamy się w dość nietypowym temacie, w temacie szkół dla dziewcząt. Ja mam do Państwa taką prośbę, abyście napisali na czacie, skąd jesteście, czy jesteście rodzicem, uczniem, czy może nauczycielem. Będzie mi raźniej, wiedząc, do kogo mówię. A moim dzisiejszym gościem jest Clare Freeman z RMS for Girls, brytyjskiej szkoły dla dziewcząt położonej niedaleko Londynu. Hello, Clare.
Hello, good morning. Dzień dobry.
Very good Polish, very good Polish.
That's the limit.
Yeah, well, good enough. Thank you so much. So Clare is representing RMS for Girls, a wonderful boarding school just outside of London. Clare, maybe before we start talking about girls' schools in general, could you tell me a bit about yourself and the school where you are now?
Okay, so my name's Clare Freeman. I am the head of the sixth form section of the school. RMS is an all-through girls school, which means that we have a nursery section where we have girls aged 2 to 4. We then have a junior section where we have girls aged 5 up to age 10, 11, senior section aged 11 to 16, and then the sixth form section, which is for the 17, 18-year-old students. We're a mixed day and boarding school, so we have a mixture of students from literally all over the world, which is a sort of wonderful multicultural environment that we're very much in.
Fantastic. Let me explain a bit what is sixth form, because many parents don't know it. So sixth form is the last 2 years of high school education, so last 2 years before university, where the students prepare for their final exams and university entrance. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Absolutely. Yes. And we do A levels at RMS. Different schools do different subjects and different qualifications, but we do A levels, which prepares them very well for entry into UK universities as well as US universities. And we do applications for universities again all over the world.
Yes, A levels is kind of matura exam. In Poland, we have exams called matura, but also very different. So if anyone is interested more about A levels, you can see on my YouTube channel a video where I explain it, or an article on my blog, or of course you can ask me some questions during consultations. Okay, Clare, let's get to the point. What are the primary reasons that parents choose single-sex schools?
In all honesty, I think it depends on the parent, it depends on the student, and it depends on the age of the student. But I think one of the overarching key aspects of it is the academics, in that it's well known in the UK that students who learn in an all-girls educational environment will do better academically than they would if they were in a co-ed situation. Number of reasons behind that. One of the key reasons is that there aren't boys there to distract them. Boys are a distraction, as much as we would like to pretend they're not. Boys are a distraction, particularly when girls are going through the age of 13, 14, lots of hormones going on. Boys do become a distraction for girls. So academically, they do better. Interestingly, boys do better in a co-educational environment because the girls are there to calm them down. But ultimately, we don't want girls to be there for the sake of boys. We want the girls to build confidence. We want them to develop resilience, and they can do that much better without the boys. So the academics, I think, is the biggest one. But also, I think it's about the confidence that the girls can gain in who they are, in that they can try out different things. They can try playing football without boys watching on telling them they're rubbish at it. They will go into biology lessons and have great confidence in it. Our biggest subjects at A level are biology and maths. Now, these would traditionally be seen as boys' subjects, but actually our girls, there is no such thing as a boys' subject or a girls' subject here. Girls can try everything. They can have confidence in what they're trying and know that they will be respected in their views, their ideas, so that when they leave us, they go on and do so many different things. But it's about them feeling confident in what they're doing and how they are learning, without anybody or anything telling them that they can't.
I see. Thank you so much. And as you probably know, girls' schools are not popular in Poland. And this is one of the reasons why I invited you to this webinar, to explain a bit the girls' schools. And my next question was supposed to be about the academic and social benefits, but you already answered that.
Well, I talk very much about social. I think is actually an important aspect of it, because for me, it's not just about the subjects, but it's also about the girl's own personal experience. And for a girl to be able to be who she wants to be in terms of showing her fun side in a way. So in the sixth form common room, at the end of term, the girls were in there doing karaoke. We had the entire school doing a dance. And I say to the girls, would you do that if boys were around? And they were like, no way, because they don't want to be embarrassed in front of the boys by showing things that they just enjoy doing. And actually girls being able to be vulnerable and to show themselves in that way, I think is really powerful in helping them develop confidence in who they are. And that's a massive, massive win, I think, about being in an all-girls school.
I see. And as I mentioned, girls' schools are not popular in Poland. And in Poland, we have very few girls' schools that are Catholic schools. And they generally have a reputation as a very serious place. By serious, I mean not like they take education seriously, because of course they do, but it's just like not a fun place to be. So when you mention this karaoke or other social things, then it shows it like, yeah, it might be a place for teenagers.
Yeah, but, and I think you're right, and it's almost the opposite of what you see in Poland with your all girls Catholic schools in Poland. It's almost the opposite in that because it's all girls, the girls can have fun, and we can. When we're talking to the girls, when we are, just around doing the pastoral care, supporting the girls, we can do it in a fun way, because boys and girls are very different in how you approach them. Boys need rules. They need to know what they need to do. Very simple. You tell them what to do. They do what they're told to do, hopefully, sometimes. Whereas girls, actually, if you say to a girl, don't do that, actually, she can get upset. She can, struggle and worry about things like that. So how we interact with the girls is very different how you would if there were boys there. And I think it creates a much happier and more relaxed almost environment than if we did have boys here.
Yeah, and I remember when I visited the first girls' schools only a few years ago. It was in England. Before the visit, I was even thinking like, oh, I'm going to waste time. No one from Poland would be interested in going to girls' schools, because I had the same stereotype in my head, like most of the parents have. But then after I went to the school, and after that I visited several more, including RMS, and I spoke to these girls, and they are just normal, fantastic, and very confident teenagers. And but then parents need to parents, and then their daughters need to decide to choose such schools. So can you discuss any specific concerns and challenges that parents might have when considering single-sex education for their daughters?
I think the biggest thing I see with parents is their concern that their daughter won't really know how to interact with boys if they are not surrounded by them in their education. And I can understand that. So what we do, because obviously we are very aware of that as a school, and you know, we think, okay, we're all girls, so what do we do to support the girls? Because for us, it's very much about preparing them for their future. We need them to leave RMS really ready to thrive in an environment where there are boys and there are people who are very different to them. So what we do is have a link with a boys' school, which is just down the road. And so we obviously keep the boys away for lessons so the girls can focus on their lessons. But we are increasingly doing different activities with the boys. So, for instance, over Easter, there was a big charity event. So we went over there and the girls helped with this charity event with the boys. In a couple of weeks' time, we have a leadership day with the boys. So we bring the boys in where they're useful and work with the boys there. And so the girls get to know the boys over the years. So yes, they do have boys who are friends. They do know how to work with boys. But interestingly, what I find is by the sixth form, our girls are really, really confident in themselves. So when the boys come in, our girls are straight in there chatting, but in the activities, our girls are holding their own. They are leading. They're not sitting back and letting the boys get on and do it. They are right in there doing it. And I think that is because they've built that confidence in themselves and their abilities through being in that all-girls environment.
Yeah, I see. And girls' schools are still popular in the UK because what I noticed, many of the boys' schools are opening their doors to the girls these days, while the girls' schools remain for girls only. So how do the parents perceive the impact of girls-only environment for their daughters?
I think it goes back to the academics, and it's interesting what you say and what you've noticed about boys' schools going co-ed. And I think that again goes back to the academics, in that boys do better when there are girls around, whereas girls do better when there aren't boys around. Now, I'm sure you all saw in the press, I'm sure it was in Poland as well as the UK a few years ago, we had something called Everyone's Invited, where there was misogyny and boys with boys and so forth. And a lot of boys' schools were actually really kind of pulled up on that. And so a lot of them have gone down that route of actually, you know what, we need to bring in girls so that the boys are calmed down and actually they understand with girls as forces to be reckoned with in society, whereas actually for girls, that confidence, that strong academics remains a core part of education and of building those girls up to be confident young women who really are ready to kind of take on the challenges of whatever it is that they choose to do.
Yeah, great. I think I forgot to mention to the parents who are with us today that if you parents have any questions regarding what we are discussing now or anything else about girls' schools, you can write your question in the chat. In the right lower corner, you can see the chat box. You can type your question there. It can be in Polish or in English. And after our conversation, we will have time to answer you those questions. I should have said that at the beginning, but I just forgot. And normally by now I would have some questions, and I noticed there are none, just two parents introduce themselves. So that's why I realized and I decided to say that. Okay, Claire, let's go back to the girls and choosing the girls, even considering the girls. Do the parents consider the potential influence of peer pressure and social dynamics while choosing the single-sex schools for their daughters?
I don't think it's something that they consider when they're actually choosing the school, but I think it's something that might concern them and they might think about. And in terms of peer pressure, I would say actually it's something that's better in an all-girls school. Funnily enough, on the way into school this morning, I've got a daughter who is in year 8 here, and I bring her and her friends into school, and I said, right, come on, girls, tell me, what do you think is the best thing about being in an all-girls school? And they're like, I said, okay, well, how would it be different if there were boys here? And my daughter said there would be so much more drama. She said, because somebody would be complaining that someone's talking to her boyfriend and someone would be doing that. And I thought actually that's a really, really good way of putting it, actually, because when there are boys there, the focus and of any kind of discussion or arguments or whatever with the girls would be very much based around those boys. And getting dressed in the morning, putting the makeup on in the morning, that would all be a much bigger thing if there were boys around. Now, equally, in an all-girls environment, we all know, we're both girls here, we know that girls like to gossip and girls like to have chats about things. But again, as a school, being aware of that means that we do things to mitigate and to reduce that. So we have wellbeing ambassadors, we have core values. So one of our core values is kindness, in that, we are kind to each other. The sixth form prefects, they are trained in mental wellbeing, and then they work across the whole school and work with individuals or with groups of friends, so that we can help manage those discussions or problems or whatever it might be that the girls are having. And because again, it's not about removing those problems, but it's about training the students to be able to manage them, because when they leave us, they need to manage those conversations in real life. So again, it's about recognizing this could be a potential problem and training and preparing the students so that it actually is managed effectively.
Yes, fantastic. And when you were saying about your daughter and her friends talking to you this morning, and then you mentioned the makeup and what they are wearing, it reminded me about a book I read a few weeks ago, the biography of Meryl Streep, my favorite actress. And she said there that when she went to girls' schools only, it was actually higher education college, but she says that only after she went to girls only environment, she stopped worrying about the way she looks, the makeup, the clothes, the hair, and then she could really discover who she is.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So, well, if anyone would like to, have a look at the book, about a week ago I posted it on Instagram, so you can see what book is that. So you can read it also and see someone else is a very mature lady now, what she's saying about her memories from girls' schools only. And we spoke about the academic benefits. And we spoke about the social benefits as well. But then many parents would look at some school rankings and the results of the schools. So what role does the school's reputation and track record in education girls play in parents' decision-making process?
Yeah, I think that's one of the bigger things that the parents are very much influenced by. Now, we are a school, we're in the top 8% of independent schools in the country in terms of the value that we add to the students' level of education and their grades that they get. So that's obviously a massively important thing, and the parents are very much aware of that. I think a lot of it is about word of mouth. So our students, when they leave us, we have a big, what we call alumni network. So students who have left us. But often when students come and say, well, they want to come to RMS, we'll always say, oh, what is it about school? And they might often say, oh, I've got a friend who went here, or my mum came to the school. So a lot of word of mouth of them knowing that somebody who has had a really good experience here. Because I think, we can do a lot of kind of work in telling people about school, but often knowing somebody who's been here, or when you come and visit, it does make a huge difference. So yeah, absolutely, our reputation is important. Equally, I mean, if you look at the picture behind me, this shows the school grounds. We are, we're 25 minutes on the train into London, but yet we have these 300 acres of parkland, which it's a stunning sight, and I think that is a big selling point as well, for us as a school.
Yes, I visited your school just over a month ago, and I was also impressed. The location was wow. I took the train to central London straight from your school. So, yeah, that was good. And that could also lead to my next question. How do parents balance considerations such as academic rigor, extracurricular opportunities, and facilities while selecting girls only school?
Yeah, I think it depends entirely on the student. So I have a couple of students in the sixth form who are exceptional sportswomen. So one of them is a fantastic tennis player. She's just got a scholarship to go to the US. But one of the reasons she came here was the facilities that we have, the sporting facilities that we have. But equally, I have students who are really passionate about physics and about astrophysics in particular. We have a planetarium, we have staff who are able to teach astronomy. So some people might come here for that. We're one of only 3 schools in the country with that. But equally, we have parents who, of course, think, you know, we want our student is very bright, very academic. We want her to do incredibly well. We want her to be able to go to Oxford or Cambridge. And so, of course, they will look at our academic results. They will look at the university destinations of our students. What I would say is increasingly I'm seeing parents are interested in well-being. Because I'm sure, as in the UK and Poland, there is an increasing mental health crisis. Particularly of young people, and parents having lived through COVID with their children are increasingly wanting a school which will look after the well-being of their daughters. And so it's about all the different things that we put in place to support the students pastorally as well, which is massively important. And again, I think being an all-girls school, that also really helps, because there isn't the judgment, there isn't the the worry about speaking out, because girls do talk more, and it's wonderful that the girls do feel they can talk to us if they're worried about something, if they've got problems, and then we can support them effectively with that, which I think is, as I said, an increasingly important thing on parents' radar when they're choosing a school.
Yes, so it's not just education and academic. Well, it is all education.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's the holistic education.
Yeah, and are there any cultural or societal factors that influence the parents' decisions?
In some cases, there are, of course, some people who, from the religious perspective, would want an all-girls education. And we very much support all religions. We are not one particular religion at all. We are an inclusive community. We want everybody to feel that they belong here. So for students who need to pray, we do have a prayer room. In terms of uniform, the students can wear skirts, they can wear trousers. If they needed to wear a long skirt, the school uniform provider would make a very long skirt. We don't have anybody at the moment who does that. If a student wants to wear a headscarf, that's also absolutely fine. So we make accommodations for those students because we want everybody to feel that they belong. But I think it's a very small number of parents who would choose that as a reason for coming to an all-girls school.
I see. And I look at the questions asked. They are mainly in Polish, so I will translate. And I think now it's good time for you to answer these questions, because there are a few things I would also ask about, but the way the parents ask actually looks more interesting. So Mr. Tomasz, father from Warsaw, is asking if the teachers in girls' schools only are only women.
No, we have men and women. We choose a member of staff according to their ability to teach well, whether they're male or female. So no, we have a mixture. In RMS, we probably have, well, it's probably about 60% female and about 40% male. The overall headmaster, he is actually male, but on our SLT, so our leadership team, we have 5 females and 2 males. So yeah, which I think sets a good example to the girls that there are lots of females in leadership.
Yeah, yes, definitely. Miss Magda is asking, are girls allowed to date after hours?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, definitely. They're allowed to have boyfriends. They can. So depending on their age, they're allowed different freedoms in terms of being able to go out of school. So by the sixth form, they're allowed to go into London, they can go to Harrow, where our nearest cinema is. Yes, they can have boyfriends, they can bring their boyfriends back to meet their house mistresses. So it's like meeting mummy and daddy. Obviously, you know, it's her contained, they don't go up to the bedrooms. But yes, absolutely, they can date, and they do.
I see. You mentioned that in sixth form, the students are allowed to go to London. And that's what parents often ask me. And usually Polish students start boarding school in sixth form. Mm-hmm. So can any student just go to London, or do their parents need to sign some permission?
So when you join boarding, you will sign permissions to enable them to be allowed to go out. And then it's just kind of like being at home, and that when they're going out, they need to tell the house mistress where they're going, what time they're going to be home, and then off they go. So yes, but yes, so the parents would sign something right at the start to say that they give permission for her to do all the things they're allowed to do in the sixth form, and do that. But again, just like at home, if she's not on top of her work, if she's being naughty, then the privileges are withdrawn. So yeah, it works in a similar way to being at home, really.
And then are the rules at the campus very strict?
It depends on what you're used to, really. So in the sixth form, there are less rules. So in the sixth form, they can dye their hair a different colour. They can have piercings in their nose, all the way up their ears. They can wear jewelry. They have free periods where they can work where they want to do it. At lunchtime, they can go down into Rickmansworth, which is the little town, if they want to, although most of them stay at school because they have a really nice lunch at school. So yes and no, but it depends what you're used to. In the sixth form, they can have their mobile phones. In the senior school, they have to lock their mobile phones away. So yes, we have boundaries, I think, is probably the line.
One of the moms is asking, she has a daughter who's 12, mm-hmm. and she would like her daughter to go to high school. And by the high school, she means the last 4 years of education, because in Poland we have 8 years of primary schools, followed by 4 years of high school, so 12 years altogether. So she means like year 10 to start. So when should she apply?
If she would that be for this next year, September?
No, she is 12 now, so that would be
okay. Right. So yes. So I would apply basically a year before she's going to join. So the September, when she would be in our equivalent of year 9. So if she's 12 now, she's the same age as my daughter. My daughter's 12 too. So that would be in September. So if she was to apply in September, coming up, mm-hmm. then that would be for entry for the following September, which would be going into year 10.
Does your school allow some short term, like try before you buy? Because I know some schools do, some don't. And I think it would be a great option for the parents and the girls itself to try living in girls only environment. So I mean, like come for 1 term, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. We do that. We wouldn't do it in year 11 because, of course, all they're doing is preparing for exams. We wouldn't do it in year 13 for the same reason. But yes, absolutely. We do have short-term students who will come for 1 term. I've had 2 in the sixth form in year 12 this year. And sometimes, often they will come for 1 term and actually they'll just end up staying, which is really nice when that happens, because they make friends, they see the lovely environment they're in and they really enjoy it. So yes, we do offer that, absolutely.
I see. Yeah, and I would also like to ask you, what are the nationalities at your school? Because I was quite surprised at the girls' schools that I saw quite a lot of Spanish girls, German girls, and as average Polish parent, I probably wouldn't think that European parents would send their daughters to girls' schools.
Oh yes, yeah, we have quite a few European students. So yes, obviously, as you said, we have Spanish students. We have students from Italy. We have students from Georgia. I have 2 from the Czech Republic at the moment. So yes, so we do have them. I think we've got 1 coming from Albania next year. So yes, we do have students from literally everywhere and anywhere. We have students from various African countries. We of course have Hong Kong and Chinese students. We have students from Saudi Arabia, from Dubai. So literally all over the world, which I love. I'm a geography teacher by trade, so I love the internationalism of everything. I did my university degree in France, so I really, I understand what the students might be going through and how hard it is sometimes with a different language, but also how exciting it is when you go to a different country and get the opportunity to really kind of perfect your language, and you can feel really proud of yourself when you do this.
Yes. Well, yeah, it is so good to meet people from so different cultures. And what I would also like to ask, well, I know it because I met you a few weeks ago and I asked you these questions, but for the parents, it might be interesting. What is your role as head of sixth form? We don't have such a position in Poland. So what do you do for the students?
Yeah, so for me, it's very much about helping prepare them for the next stage of their lives. So a lot of what I do is help them think about, what do I want to do next? How do I prepare myself best for what I do next? And it's very much about the individual student and what's right for them. So I might have a student who is wanting to go to what we call a conservatoire. So that's a university that's based specifically for students who are very good musicians or actresses. So it will be getting her working with our head of music or head of drama to fully prepare for auditions. But equally, I might have a student who has no idea what she wants to do. So it's about working with her to think about, well, what are you good at? What are your skills? What do you enjoy doing? And then getting her to look at different options. Often it is university. Sometimes there are lots of other things that they could choose to do. Some might go straight into work. Some might do something that we now have in the UK called degree apprenticeships, where they work at the same time as going to university. So it's really about helping them prepare for their future. Yes, academically, yes, thinking about what they do next, but also developing the skills in them, because we all know that, obviously I don't know how old our guests are on the webinar today, but certainly when I was at school, the world was a completely different place. And if we think about our daughters now, when they're my age, when they're at retirement age, the jobs that they're going to be doing are going to be very, very different. The technology they're going to be working with is going to be very different. So we need to ensure that they're adaptable. We need to ensure that they're resilient. We need to ensure that they are able to look at bigger pictures and make good decisions. And so my role is really to make sure that, yes, we have a curriculum in terms of the academics, but we also have a curriculum that prepares the students and develops those different skills in the students so that they really understand that their future is not just about their subjects, but is about everything else. So from a strategic perspective, that's my job. On a day-to-day perspective, it's looking after the individual students. I don't know who's going to walk through my door with what problem or what question, and looking after those students and ensuring they're getting supported in the best way that they can.
Great. You mentioned those students who don't know yet what they want. And then you ask them what they're good at or what are their interests. Sometimes I have students who don't know what they're good at. So how do you find out? Do you do some tests or you interview them?
Well, I start by talking to their teachers, because sometimes you have students who say, oh, I'm not very good at anything. And actually, I'll say, well, you know what? I was talking to Mrs. Smith yesterday, and she told me that you're absolutely brilliant in that group work that you did. I said, would you be interested in doing something where you're working with lots of different people, because you're very good at chatting? So often it's about helping them recognise that something that they think is just normal to them is actually a really, really good trait. So it's helping them recognise that. But we also have a careers advisor, a full-time careers advisor, and she will meet with the students one-on-one, and she will give them homework to do, in that she will say, okay, I can see you're doing lots of sciences. You've got lots of sciences. I want you to go away and have a look at medicine or about astronomy, and she will give them homework to go and look at things. or to go and do some online work experience, just to get them thinking, okay, well, I like that bit of it, or I didn't like that bit of it. Because sometimes ruling things out is as powerful as ruling things in. So it's about working with them, and it's not a sudden decision. It's let's start really early on. And actually, Mrs. Pickford, the careers advisor, starts with them actually down in our junior school. And so it's a process over time with the students.
Yeah.
So that hopefully by the time they do leave us, they're going on to do something that they're going to really enjoy and be happy. Ultimately, that's what it's about. It's about being happy.
And you have been working for RMS for quite a few years. Can you remind me how long is it?
Yeah, 19 years.
19 years, wow.
Yes,
So
I came as a geography teacher. So I just came as a geography teacher to start with. And then I've worked my way up in the school. But I love the school. As I said, 19 years, I've got my daughter here. So yeah, love it.
And did you already have such situation that your student who graduated sent their daughter to RMS or not yet?
Oh, good question. No, not yet. I have got a few students whose parents came here, but before my time. But yeah, no, that's maybe my next milestone I have to wait for.
19 years in one school, it's quite an achievement, because I often talk to educators and to other people at schools, and they usually change jobs every 3 or 5 years. So you must feel very good at where you are. I guess.
And I think that's something says something about RMS, really, in that it's a school that I really believe in. As I said, my daughter's here, and for me, it's very much the right school for her. And everything that I try and create in the sixth form, I do because it's something that I believe I would like for my children. And I think that's really important. It's that kind of personal investment in what you're doing. And you find that with, there's a number of staff who've got children here, and they all firmly believe in what the school offers. And in the way they work, it's the same as me, in that they work in a way that they would want their children to experience themselves. And I think that's it says a lot about the school and the school's ethos and values.
Yeah, definitely. And do you sometimes have situations that the parents want the girl to go to girls' only school, and the girl doesn't really want it?
I would say less now. In the past, going back 19 years, you might have found that. But what I tend to find now is actually the student chooses the school more than the parents. The parents very much, I suppose the parents will say to the students, right, let's go look around these different schools. But ultimately, it is the student who chooses. I know I was talking to a prospective parent a few weeks ago, and she came back to me. She said, right, we've decided it's definitely RMS. And I said, okay, why? What was the reason? She said, bottom line is that's where Olivia wanted to go. And I think increasingly that's the situation. It's actually it's the students who are choosing it.
Lovely. Okay, Claire, our time is almost up, and we haven't got any more questions. Is there anything else you think that parents should know before considering girls' school?
I suppose that's something that I haven't touched on, which I think is quite an important one. Is actually that curriculum offer and the teaching style with girls, in that girls and boys think totally differently. I have worked before my 19 years here. I worked at a school where there were boys, but they were taught in separate classrooms. And something I noticed is that I had to plan completely different lessons for a year 9 boys class and a year 9 girls class, simply because they learn and they behave in totally different ways. So in a girls class, what we're looking at is the girls like to know an end point. They like to know what they're aiming for, and they can have multiple steps. Equally with their work, when you mark their work, they need lots of positivity in that to help them move to the next step. They need to feel good about themselves when they've got some work back that they've worked really hard on. Whereas with boys, it's very much one instruction at a time. Do this, do this. With their work, they don't need lots and lots of praise. They just get on and do it. So for me, actually being in an all-girls environment means we can really focus on the techniques that prepare and support the students to move forward with their learning and with their education. And I think it's a great thing in terms of being able to teach in an all-girls school, because it means that you can really hone in the right teaching techniques to support those students in your class.
Great, thank you for saying that. So Claire, I would like to say big thank you for your time. I know how busy you are, but it's been a great conversation for me, and I'm sure for the parents who are here and the future parents who will watch the recording of our conversation. So thank you again. I really appreciate you found time for me today.
No problem. Lovely to meet you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Dobrze, jeszcze raz ja dziękuję Państwu bardzo za obecność na dzisiejszym webinarze i tym, którzy w przyszłości będą go oglądać. Gdybyście mieli jakiekolwiek pytania dotyczące edukacji w szkołach dla dziewcząt, dotyczące szkoły RMS, o której dzisiaj też trochę mówiliśmy, zapraszam Was na konsultacje do siebie. Po zakończeniu tego webinaru na ekranie pojawi się moja strona internetowa i przez tą stronę możecie się ze mną umówić lub napisać do mnie przez formularz. Dziękuję Wam bardzo jeszcze raz za Wasz czas i mam nadzieję, że będziemy w kontakcie. Do widzenia.